Hello, everyone. I am Phyllis Care, and I am very happy to be here to talk about a topic that has been important in my life personally for over 10 years. And this particular topic was suggested from our community over at Social Media Pulse. And I am super happy to address it because, like I said, it's been very important to me in particular. So I'm going to just jump right into this thing. There's a lot to cover and some things I want you to think about. But I also want you to think about this in terms of a coaching session instead of maybe a training session. There is some training in here and there are a tremendous amount of resources for you to go through. But I also want it to be a place where you can figure out what this is in your life, why in time management we struggle when we know how important it is. And I want to talk a little bit about how important it is before we jump into this. I personally believe that time management makes or breaks a business. Period. End of paragraph. That's it. The ability for someone to understand and manage the way time works with them as an individual is very important to your success and your happiness. Absolutely important. And I'm saying this from a position of being working on this for 10 years, and I figured a few things out, but in the beginning, I was a mess. I will just straight up tell you I was a mess. I was a very classic entrepreneur who said yes to everything, tried to do everything, worked till midnight every night. I did not know what it meant to take time off or to have a vacation or even take care of my family properly. So that was me. And now I can give you some advice to help you get to a point where time management is your friend and not your enemy. So thank you very much for being here, and let's jump into it, as they say. So time management, why we struggle when we know it's important. So here's the thing. We all know how important time management is. That's been beaten into us from the very beginning. But we still find a lot of people are stressed and overwhelmed. They don't know how to minimize that, and they're not enjoying their work. It is a classic meme inside of social media management that social media managers are heavily overworked and stressed to the top of their glass, right? So why is that, and how can we fix that? Because I think it's fixable. Totally doable. So here's the most important part. You have to know yourself. Now, I'm sure you're adult enough and grown up and old enough to have been around long enough to notice your own personal patterns. And we're going to talk about those in just a minute. You know what makes you struggle, whether you admit to it or not. You know what makes you struggle. You know the types of social media clients you have and the kinds you wished you had. You know the types of products and projects that you do personally for yourself. And you know all of your other responsibilities, whether you're a parent or you're a grandparent or you are a caretaker of any kind, or you have other responsibilities outside of your work inside of social media. So you know yourself. You know how you work. So what I'm going to explain today is not a one system fixes all things kind of thing. You have to know how you are. So hopefully as I read through those, you answered them yourself. I'm going to use myself as an example, but I hope that you write down for yourself what these answers are. So I've been around long enough to notice patterns. Yes, I am super clear on my patterns. I tend to fill up all imaginable space and time. I don't value free time for myself. These are my patterns. I know what makes me struggle. What makes me struggle is when I work too late on projects where there's too tight of a timeline. I know the types of social media clients I have. Yes, right now I love who I have, so I've kind of got that all dialed in. But maybe you have a mix of some that you like and some that you don't like. Write that down. I know the types of projects I work on. I am very clear about what I'm responsible for and what I'm not responsible for. But in the beginning, when I started working in this industry, I felt like I was responsible for everything and everybody, and that had to be dialed back a little bit. And I also know my other responsibilities. I am grandma to 2 kids, and I do enjoy spending time with them. So now that we sort of get a grip on who you are as an individual person and your particular situation, let's talk about these 3 types of people that I find inside of working inside of social media management. One of these, or a combination of these, is going to sound familiar to you as showing yourself. Whichever one they are, make sure you tell me in the comments because I'm super curious about it. So there is a type of social media manager or online marketer who's got that hurry now thing and always butting up against deadlines. And they are hyper in their languaging, they're hyper in their push energy, they're hyper in their like, I just got to get this done. You don't understand the stress I'm under to get this done, right? There's a hurry now vibe. This is the kind of person who always feels like they're behind, that somehow they're always behind. And then also this is the kind of person, if there is a deadline for Friday, they don't manage and plan the work on Monday and Tuesday. They wait till Thursday night to complete it on Friday. I have known lots of people who work this way, and I have found through time, and I'm just going to be straight up with you guys, this type of thing is someone who is addicted to the adrenaline. It is an addiction to adrenaline, to that feeling alive when that Friday deadline comes up and you work on it really hard, and Thursday and then Friday you deliver it and you're like, yes, I did it, right? That type of thing is a biochemical addiction to adrenaline. And that feeling of I did it is very important to this type of person. There's a better way to do it that doesn't involve adrenaline, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. But a lot of times, this is someone who feels being overworked justifies their existence, that being valued in a way that they have so much work to do somehow satisfies their need for being valued. So straight up, sorry, I told you I wasn't going to pull any punches on this one, and I'm not. This particular thing, there is a way to manage your time so that these things start to minimize a little bit. And I think it's very important to not work off adrenaline because that will burn you out faster than anything. Been there, done that. All right. Next person. Now this one really sort of describes me to a T. The biggest thing about this one is that there's too many things, that I have too many things to do. I can't get them all done because I got too many things to do. And many times this is truly just a lack of focus, and learning how to focus and getting things done is going to be the biggest skill this person needs to learn to do. But they also are in the habit, and I call it a habit, of multitasking, that they have developed this habit because they had too many things to do, because they don't know how to say no. And so they have this constant flipping of the tasks. And what happens is that it takes longer to do all the things. And so they feel like they have too many things and they can't get it all done. And this feeling of I can't get it all done, and this feeling of going to bed at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, feeling like you haven't gotten it done, is very draining. And again, this meme of a social media manager who is always like, I'm working till midnight, I can't get it all done. This is totally changeable. We can fix this, okay? Notice in yourself, if this is you, do you have a lot of terrible self-talk when you drop tasks and you do it? Do you feel like you're not a very valued person and you don't know what you're doing? There's a lot of imposter syndrome around this one. So there's the hurry now, addicted to the adrenaline person, and then there's too many things, which is the lack of focus person, right? So I don't know if any of those remind you of yourself, but the third one really captures a lot of people. And I ran into this a lot when I first started talking about time management to social media managers. And that's that thing of, don't find me. I'm not going to use a calendar. I don't need these things. I want my freedom. And I ran into this a lot. And it's this sort of like ultra freedom based type of personality that doesn't want to have a system and is very knowledgeable about a lot of things, but doesn't feel like anything fits for them. So there's a fierceness around not wanting to use a system. And you might notice you have this little thing where you say, yes, I need time management. But then deep inside, you're like, I don't know why I have to do this. I don't want to be bound by a calendar or by a to-do list or by a system, right? You might find that you find yourself into a team and they put you into Asana, and you look at Asana and you go, I hate this thing. I want my spreadsheets. Okay. So you might find that there's a fierceness around that. You also might find that these people are always behind because they don't have any type of system at all, and they're trying so hard to keep it all in their head. And I will guarantee you, trying to keep everything in your head will make your life miserable, straight up. Usually there is some sort of feeling about the job. There's some sort of anger about the job. Maybe you don't like your clients or whatever it is, so that you don't like your clients. You don't like what you're doing. So you're not going to do this time management thing. So I don't know if that one describes you or not. I'm going to go over to the chat and see if there's anything in the chat yet. And if you have something that you want to say, just put it in the chat. I will see things from YouTube and from Facebook and from LinkedIn if you are on those channels. And if you are inside the community watching, I'll need to see those when I come back to them in a little bit. But I'm hoping that you recognize a little of yourself in one of these three. There are several other kind of types, personalities in here, but these are the ones that I have seen most often in the work I do with time management inside social media management. So moving on. Well, great. Thanks. Now you've described me. Now what to do, right? So here's the thing about this. Let's deep dive into the hurry now one. So this is something that every person needs to do in order to really fix their time management. And that is they need to acknowledge that they have a problem and be willing to change. And that's for everything in life, really. But you need to acknowledge that your time management is out of whack and not working for you. And you have to be willing to change, okay? Because the thing is that if you don't change something, nothing's going to change. That's just the way it is. So if you're addicted to the adrenaline, you always feel behind. It sort of makes you feel alive when you beat that deadline just by the nick of time. If you've always been that way, and if you're justifying your experience and your existence because you get things done, by golly, and you've got that hurry now energy, then the things you have to change are suggested here. There are time management systems and work systems called, your top 3 tasks, where you have everything that it is that you're supposed to do, but you find the top 3 and you only do those top 3. And if you can't think, I have to do more in a day than just 3 things, right? Then what you do is you complete those top 3 things in the morning. You don't do any of the other work until the afternoon. So in other words, you're concentrating your time into these top 3 tasks. The other thing that you're going to need to change is you're really going to need to figure out some stress reduction techniques to remember and to have your body remember what it's like to not be running on adrenaline. You need to cut back on your coffee a little bit. You need to learn to breathe. You need to get up. There's a whole bunch of techniques I'll talk about in a little while, but you need to kind of focus on stress reduction to remember. And this is the key thing. And this is one of the insights I had a long time ago about this. And that is that it's okay to have free time. It's okay to not have work to do. Sometimes you have to remind yourself, bills are paid. I have good clients. Everything's all right. I have food in the kitchen. Everything's good. It's okay, and I can relax about it, okay? So stress reduction is definitely important for this particular type of person. You also have to remember that you are absolutely enough. You do not need to climb that mountain and plant that flag and have that adrenaline rush to feel like you're justified to be a human person. You are enough, period. So I'm going to go into all the different types of time management systems that are out there. Not all of them, because literally there are loads of them, but I will be going over the top time management systems in just a moment. And there's one that's really built for this type of personality. The other personality is you got too many things, too many ideas. Again, you need to acknowledge this and be willing to change. If you're multitasking everything and you're saying yes to everything and then you feel bad about it and you just like have this terrible self-talk when you can't get something done because you really wanted to help them person out. If that's you, time blocks are your friend. And those of you who have been around for a while and have seen my time management program, you will laugh because there's a little drinking game about this whenever I say Google Calendar, but time blocks are your friend. So if you are a too many things, ideas kind of person, time blocks. We need to discuss time blocks. You also need to have weekly and daily schedule reviews. You need to, if the lack of focus is because you're not looking quietly at what you have lined up and reordering and making room for everything. We'll talk about that in a moment too. But you also need to practice saying no in a really nice way. A long time ago, Amy Landino had this YouTube video where she talked about the process she goes through and some of her key kind of like life sayings that she has for herself. And one of them was about making decisions about when to work with someone or not to work with someone. And she said that when someone asks her to do something, it's either hell yes or it's a no. So if somebody comes to you and pitches an idea or is a new client, if you don't feel a hell yes, then it's definitely a no. If you feel like, oh yeah, that might be kind of fun, I might be able to help them out, that falls into the no category. And by making that hard line of only work on projects that make you light up, you will find that your list of things to do starts to get shorter, okay? And you're working on things that you prefer to work on through time. Now, this takes time to do it. But also, this particular type of person, in terms of time management, where they already have too many things and ideas, or like I mentioned just a little while ago, whenever you start cleaning up your schedule during the day because you're not saying yes to everything, what happens is there's this huge urge to fill the gaps with other work. That having a gap of time in your schedule with nothing to do feels uncomfortable. And so this is the type of person who will keep filling their schedule because they're uncomfortable with time off. They're uncomfortable with free time. So if that's you, it sounds weird, right? Because a lot of people would be like, I would love to have 2 hours of my time with nothing to do in it, right? But if you find yourself uncomfortable with that idea, then here's just a little tip. Make a list of fun things that you like to do, in your personal life. Like you like to go for walks, you like to ride your bike, you like to go swimming, you like to knit, I don't know, whatever it is. Make a list of those things. And then in your work calendar, if you start finding that you're having more open space, instead of trying to fill it with more work, fill it with one of these things on your list. Just put in a knitting block. Even if it's like from 1 to 2:30 in the middle of the day, it's okay. You're the boss. You get to do what you want to do. And then that way you start focusing on the work because you're not distracted by trying to fill the time. Does that make sense to everyone? I hope it does. This one is very near and dear to me because this is my experience in a lot of ways. All right, let's go to the next person. The don't bind me. This person is very interesting to me. They're just the rebel, They don't want to do the system. They don't like the system. The system never works. Why does people keep trying to make me do time management? If this explains how you work in life, again, you're grown up enough now to acknowledge that, yep, I'm the rebel. And then be willing to change. It's just a little change. It's not going to change your independent nature. It's just going to fix your time management problems, right? So if systems feel too restrictive to you and you're fierce about that, but you're always behind and you may be a little bit angry about things, then let's look at this. I'm going into next all these different time management systems. Be willing to test a few of them out. You can custom build your own time management program from these things that I'm going to show you. This is totally up to you. So you don't have to feel like someone is imposing a time management system on you. Understand that you're angry about some things and make sure you're working with the things that you love. If you're not working with clients you love, then you will rebel against doing the work in subtle ways, and you will also rebel against any time management program that'll help you get the work done. You're going to resist all of that. So if resistance is your vibe in this whole thing, then be willing to test a few of these out and build your own system. Okay? All right, so now that we've really gotten into the problem, let's look a little bit into the solutions, right? So there are, like I said, a gazillion time management systems. And I will say straight up, back in 2012, when I built my own time management system, it was out of my own need. I had to figure something out for myself. And I built something that worked for me. And I did teach it to a lot of people, and it worked for a lot of people. But at that same time, almost every online marketer out there at the time also came up with their own time management program because we all had the same problems. We had too much work and not enough time, right? So Amy Landino, all of these people have time management programs now based out of their own need back in 2012, 2014. So let's go into the top ones and then talk about how you can use them. So obviously, I'm going to lean into the calendar-based programs because that was my fix. That's what fixed me. And if you have a variety of projects and you get overwhelmed because of there's deadlines and they need to happen at certain times, consider a calendar system. Now, remember, a calendar system can stand alone or it can be part of another custom-built time management system. But if you need to, no matter what you do, understand how to create blocks of time in your calendar where you can focus. There's a great book, I've forgotten the author's name, but it's called Deep Work. Maybe someone can find it and put it in the comments. But that book really states the case for doing totally focused work, distraction-free work. And that is sort of the basis of a calendar-based time management program. Also using color coding. If you know you're the kind of person who really likes to see blue is this client and yellow is this client and orange is this client, then that's a really good system for you to use because of the color coding. It's super flexible, it's free, and again, it can be combined with all sorts of other systems. So I can go more into this if you're interested in this, but calendar-based time management systems are wonderful, and I'll tell you why. When you put in, if you can even start this way. Start with a list of all the things that you need to do. And then you take those and you transfer them onto your calendar, estimating the amount of time it will take for you to do those things. You will learn two things. One, you are either very good or very bad at estimating time. Because if you put 1 hour for writing a blog post, but it actually took you 2 hours, you will learn how you work. So you will learn how to estimate time better. You will understand. And then if you put everything on your calendar and you are working from 8 a.m. till midnight, then you have too much to do. You need to think about outsourcing and to moving. So if you say, okay, I'm going to work like a normal person from 9 to 5, and you move all the things that don't fit into the 9 to 5 to Tuesday, and then Tuesday is from 8 to midnight, and you keep doing that, and your work falls into Saturday and Sunday, then absolutely you have said yes to too many things, and you need to either outsource and build your agency, or you need to start saying no to some projects and raise your prices for the ones that you have. So a calendar-based system will teach you a lot about yourself. Now, list-based. I think that having a list is a great first step for any calendar program. But there are some people who just stay inside the list-based time management program. The problem with a list-based program is that there's no way to show the amount of time it will take for each thing on the list. And so the tendency is to make the list too long. And at the end of the day, you feel bad about yourself because you didn't complete the list. It is a total setup for disappointment. Now, if you know how to make a list of 4 things and you know you can get those 4 things done and you feel good at the end of that day because you completed everything on the list, then that's cool. This is your system. I would not fool with this, except I would put these things on a calendar, but that's me. Again, this is free, even though there's like all these apps and all these systems, and every time management system has some component that can be used as a to-do list. Even Google Calendar has that. So, for list-based people, if you can control yourself and to put a reasonable amount of things on your list, then cool. If you find you make too many and you feel bad at the end of the day, this is not the system for you. Straight up. Okay. The next system is a project-based system. So now if you're the kind of social media manager who works on launches or particular projects, it's not like a everyday type of social media management position. You can consider a sort of a combination of things that's project-based. Okay. So if your project has time deadlines and timelines, you can use the calendar part to make sure that flows and happens. I'm thinking of a system like Monday mornings. No, Monday mornings is the retail store. Monday is the system. But anyway, now if you have team members and there are people on this, project-based program, somebody is going to pull up a system. It's either going to be Monday, it's going to be Asana, it's going to be Trello, it's going to be something so that the team can use it. It's going to be a different type of management system than just a calendar-based or just a list, right? It'll be a combination of these things. Now, if you like or have considered working on Trello or Asana boards, if in your social media management business you have to keep all the list of ideas readily available. You have to see what's in progress. You have to see things that have been published or something like that. This is really a great system for project-based work and teams. I personally have used Trello and Asana boards with certain clients, and they're wonderful. And I'll tell you, you can see from this image here, we have a blogging project that we put out a blog post every single day. So we have a list of ideas that have come in. Those are the blog posts in ideas. And then one of our writers, Jerica, shows us which ones she's working on. Then she moves the ones she's finished for her part into the ready for review, which puts them into my bucket. And then when I have them finished off, I move them into reviewed and scheduled. And then after they're published, they move over to published. And this system keeps us highly functional, highly productive. And we have communication inside of each of those cards inside of Asana, and it works like a charm. Now, I also, because I'm a calendar-based person, put into my calendar when I'm working on these projects. So if I have to schedule Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I put a very big time block in my calendar that says blog post Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it's usually about 3.5 hours long. And that's when I focus on those things. So I don't just use a Kanban system because I don't think that that's enough for my particular time management style. So I use this combination. But again, you might just only need this one. Now, the other system is Pomodoro. I know a lot of people do this. Now, if this is really, it can be used in tandem with anything, but also it's a way to work. It's a time management program that is a focus on having a healthy relationship with work. So again, if you're the kind of person who sits down and you just work for 10 hours looking at a screen, but you're finding yourself worn out and just depressed and not happy with the work you're doing, maybe it's time to look at this. So there's a lot of systems around this. The original Pomodoro technique was you work for 25 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break. And then you work for 25 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break. Through time, other people have played with this and they have found other systems. One is they work for 50 minutes, take a 10-minute break. They actually did a study, and I don't know, it might be in the resources there, but they did a study and they looked at people and their productivity, and they actually found that 52 minutes work with a 17-minute break was the sweet spot. That's a very interesting thing. So if you feel like that you're staring at a screen too much and it's not good for your eyes or your health, sitting is the new smoking kind of thing, right? So if you feel like that's the part of your time management program you need to fix, then try a Pomodoro technique. And you can try whichever system works for you. I think that 52-17 sounds wonderful because 17 minutes is a really long time, right? So I'm hoping that that's something that you might be able to use. Now, this is probably the most famous of all the time management systems, Getting Things Done, the GTD system. And I have a feeling that a lot of people know a lot about this because, again, it was very, very famous, and they just have a new all updated edition on there too. And so the thing is about a GTD system is if you in particular have a hard time setting priorities and everything seems to be important at an equal level, okay, if that describes you and you're finding yourself totally overworked because everything's important because you're responsible for it in some way. So if that is a particular challenge for you, then this might be a good one for you to look into. His whole system is you need to capture all the details, just doing a brain dump and getting everything out. Then you have to clarify that list into what it is that's valuable in it. Then you get to organize it, move it around, and put it in the right order. Then there's a reflection stage where you reflect on, is this the right order? Are these the most important to me? And then you need to do the work. I just recently did a variation on this with something that I was involved in. There's like 8 different side hustle projects that I have working on right now. And I was having a hard time prioritizing. So I did this exact system. I wrote them all out. And maybe you've done this before too. You write them all out on a Post-it note. And on that Post-it note for each one of them, I talked about how much time this was going to take, how passive it was, if there was an investment needed, and what's the ROI on it. Is there a payoff through time? Is that a short-term payoff or a long-term payoff? And so I did that for each of the 8 projects, and then I shuffled the cards around until I felt like that clarity was there. I organized them, and then I sat back and looked at them for a while, and I was surprised at the way I ordered them. It was very important to do the work, and it was a great way to clarify my time. Now, all I have to do is transfer this information on the Post-it notes onto my calendar, which is my preferred way of doing it, into time blocks to focus on. And that's how that system goes from being just on paper to being in the way I work. Okay, so that's another system that a lot of people know about. So here's the bit, and this is the part that's really, really important. Time management is a learned skill. Nobody really comes to this planet knowing how to manage their time. This is something that you learn through time. And if you're frustrated with your work and you're frustrated with your time management, then you haven't learned a good system yet. That's all it is. You just have to learn the system that works for you. And honestly, it can take years to figure this out. It took me many years to fix my time management and to notice my own patterns and to do things that dealt with them effectively. I still have to work against filling all of my time with work. I still have to be okay with myself when I turn off the computer at 5 o'clock at night and not feel like I'm somehow not valuable because I'm not working till midnight. So these are things that will still be with you. But if you have a time management program, this will help you sort out your life and make it more enjoyable. You might have to deal with these deeper emotions. Sorry, but this is just kind of like the way it is these days. Everything has a little deeper situation than what's going on you just through a regular part of your life. You'll have to deal with partners and parenthood and adjusting clients through time before you really hit your stride. Just be okay with that and give yourself a little grace on that. You might find that you use several of these systems in a custom-built time management process. So don't feel like if I teach you how to use time blocking in a calendar, that that's the only option you have. You have lots of options, but find the thing that works for your personality type. So now, working by yourself is very different than working with a team. You might need to use systems that have been well established for a long time within the team that you're not particularly fond of. That's where those stress reducing techniques might help. But it's also a point where you can use the system that the team is working with, but you might have to transfer some of those things to your own system in order to get things done. Okay, so there are ways around that. You don't feel like you are, your personality is being hijacked by a system that you don't particularly like. There are ways around it. So that is all the things I wanted to talk to you today about in terms of time management, but there are some great resources in here. The 18 time management systems. When you go into that one, if you want to explore outside of what I talked about today, you can dive into that one. There are some really weird ones in there, but go find the thing that works for you. Don't be intimidated by looking at all those 18 to see if they work for you. I'll be putting these slides in the comments as soon as I'm done so you can get to those links. So that is my lesson today inside of Office Hour. I hope it helps you. I know there are a lot of people who suffer from really bad time management skills. And again, like I said, it's just a habit, a new habit to be learned. But first you have to know yourself and know how you are and how you react to time. And so that's it. And thank you very much. If there are any questions, put them in here. I will go around to all the socials and answer them inside the comments. And I think that's great. So now let's all get back to work, right? All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.